I have created habits that I do almost daily for maybe the last 5 years or so. I'm sensitive, I'm an artist, I feel everything, and feeling everything sucks, and I do it sober, so it's just super intense. I'm in Washington, it's winter, it's cloudy, it's super dark outside, and I've been craving vitamin C. I've been wanting to escape and go somewhere warm. I've been fantasizing about the spa in Scottsdale, Arizona. I did a whole YouTube video about that spa a few years ago. I'm still obsessed. I want to just go there. In fact, that was my first spa experience. And I didn't know that there were like different types of spas, like high quality spa or average day spa or all these things. So my first experience at a spa was this world class spa. And I'm ruined. I'm completely ruined because every other spa I've ever been to is like, there was no gateway experience. It was just, here's the hard stuff. It's really hard to get. I've looked in Washington State. Maybe the elite people hide the fancy spas. But I feel like I've looked in Seattle, which is the biggest city that I'm close to. But I digress. Craving vitamin C, wanting to escape, I went to the store, I bought papaya. When I lived in Southern California, I learned about papaya. I had never had it before, and I learned that you could have it with yogurt and honey, and that's so good. Like a plain yogurt and then adding honey, that's so awesome. And then, but this time around, I decided to buy the papaya, and then I added salt and chili powder. Salt makes it sweeter, and then the chili powder, which I'm obsessed with, so I usually add too much. And then honey, which is awesome. And it's so fun to be exotic. Oh, and papaya and pineapple, I believe, kills parasites, which is awesome. Fun fact, I am a musician. I am an artist. Sometimes I'm emotional and I want to do music. And other times I'm emotional and I don't want to do music. I don't want to play it. I don't want to think about it. It stresses me out because I think sometimes it makes me feel like I'm emotional and going through this thing and I don't want to think about all the work that I'm supposed to be doing on music stuff. But a gateway for me to experience music as a therapy is listening to little playlists that I've made. And if I can feel really good and uplifted, then I can work on music or watch TV and eat chips. I can't believe that it's been this long, but it's been about 10 years since I changed the way that I journal in the morning. I've always been a journaler. I picked up the habit as a teenager, an angsty creative teenager. Just writing, journaling. And then 10 years ago, roughly, maybe 8 years ago, I read The Artist's Way. In my life, I've read that book 3 times. I hosted like a little book club on it, read it as a group with a small group of people. I went through the book again, changed the way that I write. And long story short, I basically write stream of consciousness writing for about 30 minutes in the morning. Because I'm the kind of person that will censor my ideas and I can be very unkind to myself. It is a practice that allows me to have my ideas come out without judgment. And it's a safe space. It's not on social media. No one else is reading it. In addition, I also do other writing besides the 30 minutes. Sometimes once the ideas start flowing, I want to get out all those other ideas as well. Sometimes I have epiphanies about the way that I'm feeling or the way that I'm coping in my life. If I didn't have, I think I mentioned this before, but if I didn't have goals in life, I wouldn't care about how well I function. But I've just made the connection that for me, that if I don't function very well, I won't be able to reach my goals. I won't be able to get there. So if I can cope a little bit better or have tools and habits that help me be productive, that's everything to me. And so I feel I have a strong ulterior motive to self-care. Part of my self-care journey is just picking things I like and then just indulging in them. One of which is candles. And one of the most affordable ways for me to have candles is purchasing bulk unscented tea lights. If I was extra, I would get beeswax candles and beeswax tea lights. And if I could, I would keep bees, and then I would collect all of the wax and I would refine it, and then I would make my own beeswax candles. Beeswax candles are interesting to me because when you burn them, it purifies the air and like kills mold agents and bacteria that like floats around in your air, and it doesn't leave any soot on your walls, so it doesn't ruin your ceiling or your paint job. And it excites me because it's so clean, but when you buy them, they're so expensive. And I was like, it would be less expensive if I made my own beeswax candles. And I've always wanted to make candles and soap. And the mean girl in my head says that soap and candles are boring and cliche and that everyone makes them and that it would be stupid if I made them. But I don't care. I still have always wanted to make candles and tea lights. Candles and soap. Something that I really like to do that I forget to do all the time, this one is not a habit of mine, but I love to buy myself flowers. I love sunflowers in the summer and I love roses all year. And recently for Valentine's Day, I bought a bunch of roses for myself and the other girls in my family. And they are so pretty and I'm obsessed with them. And every time I look at them, I'm like, why don't I buy them every week? Why don't I buy them all the time? I don't know. I just forget. I do think it's important to be kind to myself and treat myself well. Because one day I became aware that I can be kind of mean to myself and talk down to myself. So once I realized that I was doing that to myself, I was shocked because I thought only other people did that. And in fact, other people have been unkind to me and I've cried because it made me feel so bad. And then once I realized that I would say those kinds of things to myself, it was pretty shocking. And I have really tried to treat myself the way I would like to be treated, which sounds funny because I was taught to treat others the way you would like to be treated, which I do, but I never thought about treating myself the way I would like to be treated. So that's a thing. I think when I was younger, I kind of assumed that a man would buy me flowers, and they haven't really. And I'm a lot less disappointed about that than I thought I would be. And when I was dating more, I'm in a season of not dating a ton, but when I didn't really notice that no one bought me flowers. Or sometimes they did randomly. But I never even asked myself the question, how often would you like to have flowers? I never thought of that as an interesting question. And I'm well, I would like to have flowers all the time. And I can so do that. That is an affordable indulgence. I can make it affordable, especially if you take flowers and put them in small jars, then you have more of them around your house. I didn't have flowers in the van when I was living in the van because nowhere to keep them. As I've watched what I've recorded so far, I'm going to add more to the flowers story because it's more complicated than I realized. I do remember receiving flowers from men that I dated, but it was usually in the beginning, and it was like a one-time deal. I don't think they meant for it to be a one-time deal. And then later in the relationship, I felt like they were mad, and then they were like, well, I don't feel like getting you flowers anymore. And so my relationship with flowers felt complicated in that way. And then I also remember a guy who would buy me flowers before he was about to do something he knew that I wouldn't like, and which would like hurt me even more. And then it just seems like a dark, twisted relationship with flowers. And all I'm saying is, because obviously I noticed when men bought me flowers and when they didn't buy me flowers, obviously it was something that I wanted, so I feel like previously I was a complete double standard. But I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be complicated. I can have flowers in my life, and here they are, and it's amazing. I give myself full permission to binge watch anything, anytime I want, as much as I want. But ever since I was a kid, watching drama and stories and narratives unfold has been very inspiring to me. Watching creations from other people is art, and I can be inspired by art and carried away. And when I'm writing music, I am carried away by my own narrative and my own story. Plus, I'm a reader. I read books on paper on purpose. I just don't feel in danger of over screen timing. Another self-care thing that I do is tea. I drink tea. I discovered tea when I worked at Synergy in Sedona, Arizona. Having these self-care things that I do daily or nearly daily is important so that I don't feel like someone else is getting all of me. Particularly when I have an hourly job like I do now. I work in a coffee shop, I work in a business, a vision, someone else's dream, and if I don't carve out the time for me, I feel a sense of getting lost. I don't think everyone is like this, because I've talked to other people that they are far more comfortable with contributing to that dream and being a part of the team and being just, I don't know, delving into that. But I work hard at keeping myself separate from whatever business I'm working for. And yeah, I don't know how I end up feeling lost in a day job, but it can make me just feel lost. Journaling in the morning and buying myself flowers, being spontaneous. One, it helps me notice surprises that happen in my day and really enjoy them. And two, I know I have always got time for myself. It makes me feel safer. If I feel I don't have time for myself, I start to feel trapped and anxious and bitter and paranoid and like just an angrier version of myself. Impatient, jealous, and that's horrible. But if I just buy myself some flowers and read a book, watch the TV show I want, and buy some twinkle lights, whatever that is for you, these are my pillars of sanity. My pillars of sanity and balance. I think another way this happened was about 10 years ago. I was at my lowest of lows, the most depressed I've ever been, and it was I knew why I was depressed. It was circumstantial. It had to do with what was going on in my life at the time. And I was looking into antidepressants. I had a friend at the time who, she and I had both had a conservative religious upbringing, and in our particular circle, taking an antidepressant was kind of a cop out when you were supposed to use prayer to not be depressed. And I was at a place in my life where I was exploring antidepressants, which was kind of a big deal for me. And she had said, I'm on antidepressants. It's made a huge difference in my life. I would recommend it. And we talked about our process in this. And so I really considered it. But at the end of the day, I thought, well, before I do antidepressants, I would like to try a bunch of natural ways to be less depressed. And if none of that works at all, then I think I'll make an appointment and see how far I get. And back then I was spending time in nature and going on hikes, which was fantastic for getting grounded if I was in my head, and if I was angry, I was just going on this hike. And then after a while, it was like breathing and looking around at the trees and thinking about how tired I was and noticing the birds. And I suddenly was not thinking about my problems. And that was actually very good for me too. Because I was too enmeshed in my problems. I really needed to separate and feel separate from that. I also smoked weed a smidgen, or hardly any at all, but that also made a huge difference. I don't smoke weed anymore, but at that time I was so unhappy that it just kind of helped spark me out of whatever funk that I was in. What else did I do? I was trying to eat better. Physically, I felt very fragile. I thought I was anemic. I don't know if I was anemic, but I was felt like I couldn't get out of bed, could barely hold up a pen, was just super tired. Yeah. I think I did a bunch of other things that I'd probably have to go back in time in my head to remember. And now, 10 years later, I have these pillars of habits that they do hold me up. And I do them when I'm doing fine, and then when I'm not doing so fine. And I do these things. They make a difference in my life. And I need that fortress. The fortress of safety.